provinces. It talks about different provinces that they were there existing, and how with time things have changed there and they started doing sinful activities. But even those uh, um, tribes, or the what do you say, not nations actually, like the small portions or provinces were there, so they actually got, they can be purified by taking Krishna's or the Lord's names. So, and then how they can get purified? By taking shelter of the devotees of the Lord. Apashraya ashraya. And they can get purified by taking the powerful name of the Lord Vishnu. So let's read the translation. This has a big purport, so we'll just discuss as it comes.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Kirata, Puna, Andhra, Pulinda, Pulkasha, Abhira, Shumba, Yavana, members of the Kasa races, and even others addicted to sinful acts can be purified by taking shelter of the devotees of the Lord, due to his being the supreme power. I beg to offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Thank you. Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. So Shukadev Goswami is saying, he's praising the Lord, and this verse is saying that even these different provinces or tribes, members of these different races, even those addicted to the sinful acts can be purified by taking the devotees of the Lord. So much is powerful. um, Lord's name and Lord's devotees association is very powerful. It doesn't discriminate with any of the races of any sinful activity or from where it comes. It can purify everyone and anyone in any place. So that's why he is saying, I beg to offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So let's read the purport.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Kirata, the province of all Bharata Varsha, mentioned in Bhishma Parva of Mahabharata. Generally, the Kiratas are known as the aboriginal tribes of India, and in modern days, the Santal Parganas in Bihar and Chota Nagpur might comprise the old province named Kirata.
Yes.
Huna, the area of East Germany and part of Russia, is known as a province of Hunas. Accordingly, sometimes a kind of hill tribe is known as the Hunas. Andhra, a province in southern India mentioned in the Bhishma Parva of Mahabharata, it is still extant under the same name. Should I continue?
Yeah, Prabhuji. Because this is just a description. So.
Yeah. Pulinda, it is mentioned in the Mahabharata. Adi Parvas 174.38 with the inhabitants of the province of the name Pulinda. This country was conquered by Bhimasena and Sahadeva. The Greeks are known as Pulindas, and it is mentioned in the Vana Parva of Mahabharata that the non-Vedic race of this part of the world would rule over the world. This Pulinda province was also one of the provinces of Bharata, and the inhabitants were classified amongst the Kshatriya kings. But later on, due to the giving up the Brahminical culture, they were mentioned as Mlechas, just as those who are not followers of the Islamic culture are called Kafirs, and those who are not followers of the Christian culture are called heathens.
Yeah, thank you. So continue. So this is clear. So this is talking about the references, the historical references of different provinces that is being described in this verse, and different races belonging to those provinces. So we'll continue.
Abhira. His name also appears in the Mahabharata, both in the Shabha Parva and Bhishma Parva. It is mentioned that this province was situated on the river Saraswati in Sindh. The modern Sindh province formerly extended on the other side of the Arabian Sea, and all the inhabitants of that province were known as the Abhiras. They were under the domination of Maharaja Yudhishthira, and according to the statements of Markandeya, the militias of this part of the world would also rule over Bharata. Later on, this proved to be true, as in the case of Pulindas. On behalf of Pulindas, Alexander the Great conquered India, and on behalf of Abhiras, Muhammad Ghori conquered India. These Abhiras were also formerly Kshatriyas within the Brahminical culture, but they gave up the connection. The Kshatriyas who were afraid of Parshurama and had hidden themselves in the Caucasian hilly regions later on become known as the Abhiras, and the place they inhabited was known as Abhira Desha. Shumbas or Kanakas, the inhabitants of the Kanka province of Old Bharata mentioned in the Mahabharata. Yavanas. Yavana was the name of one of the sons of Maharaja Yayati, who was given the part of the world known as Turkey to rule. Therefore, the Turks are Yavanas due to being descendants of Maharaja Yavana. The Yavanas were therefore Kshatriyas, and later on, by giving up the Brahmin culture, they became Melcha Yavanas. Descriptions of the Yavanas are in the Mahabharata, Adiparva 85.34. Another prince called Durvasu was also known as Yavana, and his country was conquered by Sahadeva, one of the Pandavas. The western Yavana joined with Duryodhana in the battle of Kurukshetra under the pressure of Karna. It was also foretold that these Yavanas also would conquer India, and it proved to be true. Kasa, the inhabitants of the Kasa Desha are mentioned in the Mahabharata, Drona Parva. Those who have stunted growth of hair and on the upper lip are generally called Khasas. As such, the Khasa are the Mongolians, the Chinese, and the other who are designated. The above mentioned historical names are different nations of the world. Even those who are constantly engaged in sinful acts are all corrigible to the standard of perfect human beings if they take shelter of the devotees of the Lord. Jesus Christ and Muhammad, the two powerful devotees of the Lord, have done tremendous service on behalf of the Lord on the surface of the globe. And from the version of Srila Sukadeva Goswami, it appears that instead of running a godless civilization in the present context of the world situation, if the leadership of world affairs is entrusted to the devotees of the Lord, for which a worldwide organization under the name and the style of the International Society of Krishna Consciousness has already been started, then by the grace of the Almighty Lord, there can be a thorough change of heart in human beings all over the world, because the devotees of the Lord are able authorities to effect such a change by purifying the dust-worn minds of the people in general. The politicians of the world may remain in their respective positions because the pure devotees of the Lord are not interested in political leadership or diplomatic implications. The devotees are interested only in seeing that the people in general are not misguided by political propaganda, and that valuable life of human being is not spoiled in a following type of civilization which is ultimately doomed. If the politicians therefore would be guided by the good counsel of the devotees, then certainly there would be a great change in the world situation by purifying propaganda of the devotees. As shown by Lord Chaitanya, as Sukadeva Goswami began his prayer by discussing the word Yat Kritanam, also Lord Chaitanya recommended that simply by glorifying the Lord's holy name, a tremendous change of heart can take place by which the complete misunderstanding between the human nations created by politicians can at once be extinguished. And after the extinction of the fire of misunderstanding, other prophets will follow. The destination is to go back to Godhead, as we are several times discussed in these pages.
Yeah, this is the last, I think, two more paragraphs. So I think we can just discuss this. This one has some kind of information. The upper one had the information of all the different races or nations of the world and how they became, they took to the sinful activities and what are their activities. That was described. In this particular paragraph, Srila Prabhupada says that all, um, even those who are constantly engaged in sinful act are all corrigible. It can be all corrected because they have to take the shelter of the devotees of the Lord. And that is the main idea or main message of this verse. And here it says that from the version of Srila Shukadev Goswami, it appears that instead of running a godless civilization, it is better to have a civilization where which actually talks about the Lord. And Srila Prabhupada talks about the International Society for Krishna Consciousness doing those activities. And even he wants his thought process is the politicians in other place and others also take into this process, then things may get so better. Like for example, the pure devotees of the Lord are not interested in political leadership but or diplomatic implications, but they can actually purify the consciousness of people if they are in those places. And as then Prabhupada says about how Shukadev Goswami in the verse number 15, he starts with Yad Kirtanam, then Yad Smaranam, Yad Ikshanam. All those things are described in the 15th verse. So he says, so Lord Chaitanya also recommended that simply by glorifying the holy name, which is the Yuga Dharma, a tremendous change in the heart can take place, and a misunderstanding in the heart between the nations will go away, so that political differences and everything will go away and everybody would harmonize and would be going towards the goal of going back to Godhead. So this is a wonderful like description Srila Prabhupada gave. So let's read the last two paragraphs.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
According to the cult of devotion, generally known as the Vaishnava cult, there is no bar against anyone's advancing in the matter of God realization. A Vaishnava is powerful enough to turn into a Vaishnava, even the Kirata, etc. As above mentioned, in the Bhagavad Gita 9:32, it is said by the Lord that there is no bar to becoming a devotee of the Lord, even for those who are low-born or women, Shudras or Vaishyas. And by becoming a devotee, everyone is eligible to return home back to Godhead. The only qualification is that one takes shelter of a pure devotee of the Lord who has thorough knowledge in the transcendental science of Krishna, Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Anyone from any part of the world who becomes well conversant in the science of Krishna becomes a pure devotee and a spiritual master for the general mass of people and may reclaim them by purification of heart. Though a person be even the most sinful man, he can at once be purified by systematic contact with a pure Vaishnava. A Vaishnava, therefore, can accept a bona fide disciple from any part of the world without any consideration of caste and creed and promote him by regulative principles to the status of a pure Vaishnava who is transcendental to Brahmanical culture. The system of caste or Varnashrama dharma is no longer regular even amongst the so-called followers of the system, nor is it now possible to re-establish the institutional function in the present context of social, political, and economic revolution. Without any reference to the particular custom of a country, one can be accepted to the Vaishnava cult spiritually, and there is no hindrance in the transcendental process. So, by the order of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the cult of Srimad Bhagavatam or the Bhagavad Gita can be preached all over the world, reclaiming all persons willing to accept the transcendental cult. Such cultural propaganda by the devotees will certainly be accepted by all persons who are reasonable and inquisitive without any particular bias for the custom of the country. The Vaishnava never accepts another Vaishnava on the basis of birthright, just as he never thinks of the deity of the Lord in a temple as an idol. And to remove all doubts in this connection, Srila Shukadev Goswami has invoked the blessings of the Lord, who is all powerful, Prabha Vishnave Namaha, as the all powerful Lord accepts the humble service of his devotee in devotional activities of the Archana, his form as the worshipable deity in the temple. Similarly, the body of pure Vaishnava changes transcendentally at once when he gives himself up to the service of the Lord and he is trained by a qualified Vaishnava. The injunction of Vaishnava regulation in this connection runs as follows. Arche Vishnu Shiladhir Gurushu Naramatir Vishnave Vaishnave Jati Buddhi Sri Vishnor Namni Shabda Samanya Buddhihi, etc. One should not consider the deity of the Lord as worshipped in the temple to be an idol, nor should one consider the authorized spiritual master an ordinary man, nor should one consider a pure Vaishnava to belong to a particular caste, etc. Padma Purana. The conclusion is that the Lord, being all powerful, can, under any and every circumstance, accept anyone from any part of the world, either personally or through his bona fide manifestation as the spiritual master. Lord Chaitanya accepted many devotees from communities other than the Varnashramites, and he himself declared to teach us that he does not belong to any caste or social order of life, but that he is the eternal servant of the Lord, who maintains the damsels of Vrindavana, Lord Krishna. That is the way of self-realization. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. So uh, here in the second paragraph, it says about what is the cult of devotion. So Prabhupada talks about the Vaishnava cult and how there is no bar, and there are so many verses in the Srimad Bhagavatam as well as Srimad Bhagavatam specifically, which talks about that when one is uh, accepted as a Vaishnava, one is accepted Vaishnava based upon his interest to know about the Lord, not what caste, creed, or what he belongs to. So here it says that even in Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada gives a reference of that there is no bar of becoming a devotee of the Lord. And one thing, the only qualification Prabhupada says, which we have to remember, is that one should take the shelter of a pure devotee of the Lord, who has thorough knowledge of the transcendental science of Krishna. And anyone from any part, Prabhupada says, is eligible to go, because the thing is that there is a purification of heart is required, and that purification can happen in the association of the Lord or his devotees, and it happens by those purifying association like we had for the last 3-4 days. That has purified our heart a little bit, at least on the upper level. But when we practice it, when we know about it, when we read about it, when we contemplate on it, then it will be a purifying experience. But even though not doing it, it is a purifying experience. You everybody would agree for that. So Vaishnava is therefore can accept, says that they can accept a bona fide disciple from any part of the world. Doesn't matter, as long as he has an interest in progressing spiritually. And then Srila Prabhupada says that by the order of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the cult of Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita can be preached all over the world. So that is the mission of also the ISKCON society. So Vaishnava never accepts another Vaishnava on the basis of birthright. Same way. And and then he gives a Vaishnava. There is an injunction in the Padma Purana which tells about that Arche Vishnu Shiladhir. So one should not consider the deity of Lord as to be a Shila or made up of stone. So that should not be considered. Gurushu Naramatir. And to Guru thinking about that he is an ordinary human. And Vaishnava Jati Buddhi. Consider, and then one should consider pure Vaishnava to belong to a particular some Jati Buddhi. Sri Vishnu Namni Shabda Samanya Buddhi. So Sri Vishnu, name of Sri Vishnu, thinking that it is an ordinary thing. So all those things should be avoided. So, and then the conclusion Srila Prabhupada gives that in Lord being all powerful, he can under any and every circumstance accept anyone from any part of the world by bringing him under his shelter, either directly or by the association of the his powerful manifestation as a spiritual master. So Lord Chaitanya accepted gives examples of Lord Chaitanya accepted many devotees. You have heard about so many devotees from different lineages, and they were devotees. They were Brahmanas. There were different caste societies there. Even Haridas Thakur, who was also coming from a Mohammedan family, has joined in that. And so, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that Kiva Nyasi, Kiva, he talks about different varnashrama system, and he says, I belong to none. He says that he is the eternal servant of the Lord, who maintains the damsels of Vrindavan, Lord Krishna. And that is the way of self realization. So, the take home from this verse is that anyone in any condition can take the shelter of the Lord by the mercy of the bona fide devotee of the Lord who has the knowledge of the scriptural injunctions, and also by that he can be purified. So, if there are some discussion points, we can discuss. And today is Ekadashi, and I would say happy Ekadashi to everyone. So this is a wonderful purifying day, and we are discussing purifying literature. Yes. The Shuddhanti is very important term here.
Thank you for that, Prabhu. Shuddhyanti. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's the heart of the whole sloka, in the sense. Gives an essence of what happens when we take shelter of Prabha Vishnavi Namaha with Yadapashrayashrayaha. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Mataji.
Prabhu, Srila Prabhupada has used a word cult here a couple of times in the purport, and cult usually have a negative connotation to it. Is there any reason why that has been used?
A negative cult actually has a negative connotation. It depends upon when you see what is the reference, what is the context it has been used. So Prabhupada used in some cases the cult, depending upon where the reference is, it may have negative ones, but most of the times he talks about is the cult of like Vaishnavism and Krishna consciousness. So he's talking in a positive. Cult here means a section, a thought process of doing something which is not very easily seen in the society. I mean, outside of that. So that is what, even in a negative sense also, it is something doing which is outside of society, which is not social. But here, in the positive sense also, it is meaning the same way. Yeah, that's why he used it. Yeah, but we have to understand based upon the context.
Yeah, that makes sense, Prabhu, that doing something outside the normal society is doing.
Exactly. So
in
even
general,
doing a spiritual thing is normal outside the society, but depending upon what the end goal is, what the consequence is, as Chaitanya Charan Prabhu was saying, we can understand that word.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Any other points? If not, so Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai and Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrind ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna. Happy Ekadashi to everyone.
Happy.
Thank you so much.
Ekadashi Prabhu.